The winter streets of early 80s. Philadelphia had a texture all their own, steam rising from sidewalk grates, brown slush piling near the curbs, the rattle of trolley tracks underfoot. On screen, it all looked effortless. A fallen broker, a hustler on the rise, a Christmas Eve world that felt both chaotic and strangely familiar. But behind that smooth comedy was a production full of strange choices, narrow misses, hidden tensions, and moments that would never survive modern safety standards. Before theaters shrank their schedules, before home video gave everyone the luxury of rewinding at will, movies like Trading Places didn't just play, they lingered, filling giant auditoriums with the sound of film whipping through a projector. These are 17 weird facts about Trading Places that reveal the human cost of that shared memory. Fact number 1, Donna Meche was cast after decades out of the public eye. When director John Landis said he wanted a mesh for the role of Mortimer Duke, studio executives paused, dead serious, and asked, "Is he even alive?" They weren't joking. This was back when a long absence meant disappearing entirely. A Mech hadn't headlined a major film since the early 60s, a time when theaters advertised showtimes on changeable letterboards and newsstands sold glossy film magazines every week. When he walked onto set that first day, crew members whispered like they were seeing a ghost step out of Hollywood's past, a silent confirmation that the era they were filming was the one they had already started forgetting. Fact number 2, the film was originally conceived for Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. In early drafts, the plot leaned even harder into chaos, with Wilder's nervous energy and Pryor's fire anchoring the story. The idea was a different kind of storm entirely, built on raw, unpredictable comedic danger. But Pryor suffered a near-fatal accident before production began. The studio shifted direction and tone, and two rising stars, Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, stepped into roles that reshaped the entire film, turning a potentially dark, anarchic comedy into the sharper, brighter movie we remember. Somewhere, in an alternate reel lost to time, a completely different version still exists. Fact number 3, the Duke brothers' office wasn't a set, it was a functioning corporate suite. This was back before every luxury interior was built on a soundstage. Landis insisted on reality. The upper floor corporate suite they used was filled with real antiques, insured for more than the film's entire lighting budget. The furniture was so old that production assistants were reportedly instructed not to breathe too heavily near the carved wood surfaces. If anything cracked, the film's insurers were ready to shut production down instantly. Every take was a gamble against time, temperature, and the fragility of objects that mattered more to the production company than the film itself. Fact number 4, Eddie Murphy's improvised comedy kept ruining takes. Murphy brought stand-up reflexes to the set that were still new to the old system. During early takes, he kept slipping into improvisation so sharp that the camera operators often ruined shots by laughing. This was 1982, when improv wasn't formatted into clean digital takes. Every ruined reel meant losing physical film, burning actual money. Landis begged the crew to develop silent laughter, a skill nobody had needed since vaudeville days. It was a clash between the new energy of an era and the expensive physical reality of filmmaking before the digital age made mistakes cheap. Fact number 5, Dan Aykroyd wore real frostbite makeup that caused a burning sensation. The makeup was a menthol gel that seeped through his pores. Wearing it under heavy wool in below freezing street temperatures created a burning sensation he later described as a cold that bit back. Crew members kept portable heaters just out of frame, the kind that hummed like old radiators in neighborhood theaters, trying to manage the real suffering the actor was enduring for the sake of the gag. What looked like pathetic desperation on screen was built on real, acute physical discomfort. Fact number 6. Jamie Lee Curtis was almost rejected by Paramount executives. Executives still saw her only as the Halloween girl, the Scream Queen, a star of niche horror, not major comedy. Landis had to fight to convince them she could anchor a major film, with one executive allegedly saying, "She can scream, but can she talk?" It was a cultural gatekeeping moment, where a star's past dominated their potential future, a kind of typecasting that was rigid in that era. By the first week of watching the filmed scenes, however, those same executives were requesting early dailies just to watch her scenes, realizing their old rules no longer applied. Fact number 7. The Christmas party sequence initially used real alcohol. Back when film sets were less strictly managed, extras treated the early takes of the party like an actual office blowout. Someone spiked the punch bowl with whatever they'd brought from home. Whiskey, schnapps, a mystery bottle with no label. By the third take, Landis ordered the punch replaced with colored water before the film turned into a documentary on set behavior. It was a moment of true, unrehearsed chaos that captures the rougher, less controlled reality of filmmaking before modern standards took hold. Fact number 8. Aykroyd's miserable stumble through the street in the Santa costume was filmed while he had a real fever. He had chills, nausea, and a splitting headache. The costume's heavy wool absorbed heat like an old movie theater seat in August, trapping everything inside. In close-ups, you can actually see him shivering under the beard, lending an agonizing authenticity to his character's pathetic fall from grace. He wasn't acting the fever, he was enduring it. This was the cost of practical, on-location suffering back when they made films this way. Fact number 9. The salmon Aykroyd hides inside his Santa suit was real, not a prop. It was not refrigerated, it was real fish. As the studio lights heated the room, the salmon began to sweat in ways fish were never meant to. By lunchtime, the smell had traveled through the set like an alarm bell, a stench that became a visceral and immediate marker of the scene. Cast and crew quickly learned to give him a 6-foot radius for the rest of the shoot, a testament to the fact that back then, real was sometimes just too real. Fact number 10. The gorilla costume in the train sequence caused an actual medical scare. This was before state-of-the-art creature suits. The performer inside it, a veteran of old-school rubber suits, barely had ventilation. Under the heavy rubber and synthetic fur, he overheated, went pale, and collapsed between takes. Crew members removed the headpiece, and steam poured out like escaping boiler smoke. If they'd rolled another minute, he might have passed out inside the suit, a reminder of the physical danger that practical effects posed before modern monitoring and safety protocols were commonplace. Fact number 11. Paul Gleason, who played Clarence Beeks, insisted on doing many of his own physical gags. This was before every actor had a designated stunt double for even minor physical action. In one rehearsal, a metal briefcase snapped shut on his hand with full force. He didn't break character, he didn't even swear, he simply nodded, said, "Let's keep it," and walked away with a bruise the size of a subway token. That commitment to enduring the moment was a hallmark of actors from that era. Fact number 12. The trading floor finale used real commodities, pit veterans, as extras. These were men whose voices had been trained by decades of shouting in concrete rooms, accustomed to the raw, visceral energy of the exchange. When they fired up for the scene, their roar bounced off the set walls with the force of a landing airplane. Murphy later said his ears rang for an hour after filming. This was the kind of cultural dominance evidence that era-specific casting provided, the shared, deafening experience of a real marketplace, not a staged imitation. Fact number 13. A near disaster struck during that same finale when a ticker machine sparked. One of the old-school ticker machines used on the set sparked, releasing a thin trail of smoke. The set had so many paper props stacked around it that a single flame could have taken out the entire soundstage. This was before quick-response digital monitors, back when the machines were heavy, analog, and prone to breaking down under the heat of the set lights. A quick-thinking grip unplugged the machine with bare hands, burning his fingers to avert the fire. The extinguishers never had to come out, but they nearly did, proving how close they came to losing the entire finale. Fact number 14. Jamie Lee Curtis had a small ritual, chewing gum before every scene. She did this not for nerves, but to cope with the stale heater air inside the old apartments where they filmed. Old New York buildings, radiators hissing like kettles, dust drifting when lights warmed the room. She said the gum kept her grounded when everything around her felt ancient and overheated, providing a small, modern comfort against the rough physical reality of an aging set. It was a tiny act of survival against the environment. Fact number 15. The briefcase that keeps slipping out of Donna Maeche's hand wasn't scripted. The clasp on the antique briefcase was faulty, and Amesh kept fumbling it. Landis loved the imperfection, seeing it as an accidental piece of character design. He said it made the Duke brothers look even more brittle, like old titans slipping past their prime, their control literally falling from their hands. Amesh was embarrassed at first, until he saw audiences laugh at the moment in theaters, realizing the unscripted chaos had created a moment of true gold. Fact number 16. Paramount executives nearly cut the entire train scene. Studio executives feared Murphy's costume, Aykroyd's disguise, and the gorilla gag were too strange, even for a major comedy. It was a classic moment of old Hollywood fear of the truly bizarre, but test audiences erupted at that sequence. It was the loud, rolling kind of laughter people used to release when movies were shared experiences instead of solitary streaming choices. The executives backed off, confirming that the communal experience of the theater trumped any internal notes. Fact number 17. A hidden connection links Trading Places to Coming to America. Long before the term cinematic universe existed, Landis and Murphy added a secret message about interconnected films. The Duke brothers reappear in Coming to America, broke, ragged, begging on the street. When audiences first noticed it, they felt like they'd discovered buried treasure. A wink from an era when films rewarded people who paid attention instead of algorithms that did the remembering for them. It was a subtle confirmation of cultural belonging for those who were watching closely. Trading Places looked like a sharp, bright comedy built for holiday crowds, but behind every joke was the texture of a film made in a different world. When crews wrestled with heavy lights, wool costumes, freezing streets, and equipment that rattled like subway cars. It came from a time when movies didn't disappear after opening weekend, when people filled big theaters that smelled of buttered popcorn and old carpet, laughing together at the same scenes. That winter of 1983 left its mark on everyone who worked on the film. Bruises, fevers, lost tempers, and choices no modern production would dare repeat. And yet the movie endures, carried forward by the craft that survived the chaos, by the strange magic that comes from limitations rather than perfection. Trading Places still lives where the best older films do, in the shared recollection of people who saw it when the world felt louder, rougher, and somehow more real. If the story of a production built on chaos, suffering, and incredible commitment sounds familiar, that's because some movies are simply destined to become shared cultural anchors.